talk about the beautiful business of milk today. Yeah, yeah. I got milk. Let's talk about milk. Oh yeah, baby, let's talk about the beautiful business of milk today.
This episode of Got Milk is sponsored by Shunya Agritech, the folks revolutionizing cattle nutrition with hydroponic green fodder. Visit their website at shunya.live for more details or download the Shunya app from Play Store or App Store.
All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today we're headed to India. We're going to look at the world of dairy farming there.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and we'll be looking at specifically a 2015 research article. And it really digs into the challenges faced by dairy farmers.
Yeah.
In the Mandsaur district of Madhya Pradesh.
Interesting.
And get this, India is the world's largest milk producer.
Wow.
But it barely registers on the global dairy trade scene.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
Right, so we're going to try to uncover why that is.
Yeah.
And what kind of hurdles these farmers are facing.
Yeah, that's a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, India produces a huge amount of the world's milk. It's something like 14%, but
14%.
Yeah, but its share of international trade is like less than 0.1%.
It's crazy.
So hopefully this deep dive will help us understand why.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And the study, it zeroes in on this Mandsaur district.
Okay.
And in this district, a huge chunk of the population relies on agriculture and dairying.
Okay. It's like 85%.
Wow.
So these insights, hopefully, can tell us a lot about India's dairy industry as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the researchers found three main categories of constraints
Okay.
that are faced by these dairy farmers in Mandsaur.
Okay.
And they are breeding practices, feeding practices,
Okay.
and then animal management and healthcare.
Okay, so let's start with those breeding practices.
Sure.
The study mentions repeat breeding as a major problem.
Uh-huh.
And I imagine that's when, a cow needs to be bred multiple times to actually get pregnant.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
It's a huge problem, actually,
Yeah.
affecting, well, over 2/3 of the farmers
Wow.
in the study.
Okay.
And repeat breeding really drains resources and time,
Yeah.
because it delays milk production
Right.
and just increases costs.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this domino effect that just impacts their entire operation.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, over 65% of the farmers are struggling with something called heat detection. Yeah.
And is that like knowing when a cow is ready to breed?
Yes, heat detection is crucial
Okay.
because, knowing when a cow is receptive to
Mhm.
breeding is essential for successful insemination.
Yeah.
And many farmers, they just lack the knowledge or the techniques to accurately detect this window,
Yeah.
So it leads to all these missed breeding opportunities.
I see.
Yeah, it's like, missing a train that only comes once a month.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So missing that window means you're potentially waiting a whole month to try again.
Exactly.
Wow. And then there's the issue of bull availability.
Right.
The study says over 55% of farmers are limited by this.
Yeah, a lot of farmers, particularly those with smaller farms,
Okay.
they rely on bulls for natural breeding.
Right.
But, access to good quality bulls is limited,
I see.
which, of course, impacts breeding success and the overall quality of the herd.
Right. So having like a high quality bull could really improve the genetic makeup of the herd and then ultimately the quality of the milk, right?
Exactly.
Speaking of improving things, the study also mentions artificial insemination.
Uh-huh.
Is that something that could help with these breeding challenges?
Potentially, yeah. Artificial insemination, or AI, can offer access to superior genetics,
Okay.
which, overcomes that limitation of local bull availability.
Right.
But the study found that less than half the farmers are actually utilizing AI.
Oh, wow. So why aren't more farmers taking advantage of this? Is it cost prohibitive?
Cost could be a factor, yeah.
Okay.
But it's likely also just a lack of awareness about its benefits.
I see.
Or maybe even just apprehension about using a more modern technique.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I mean, it seems like even when the solutions exist, there are barriers to adoption.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on to the second pillar then. feeding practices.
Okay.
And this is really where the conflict between a farmer's livelihood and the needs of their cows becomes really apparent.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
You know, the study reveals this tension between growing high-return cash crops
Okay.
and dedicating land to fodder, which is essential for the cows.
Right.
And you can imagine the dilemma, you know, growing food for your family or
Right.
food for your cows.
Yeah.
And sadly, nearly 70% of the farmers
Wow.
prioritize those cash crops.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, right? They need to put food on their own tables too.
Exactly.
But that can't be good for the cow's nutrition.
Not ideal, no.
Yeah.
And there's also a knowledge gap
Mm.
when it comes to feeding practices.
Yeah.
You know, over 64% of the farmers lacked knowledge about optimal feeding strategies.
Wow, so even when they are growing fodder,
Yeah,
they might not be maximizing its nutritional value.
exactly.
Wow.
And then there's the added problem of concentrate feed, which is a supplemental feed
Right.
packed with nutrients,
Yeah.
but it's expensive.
Right.
And then, you know, more affordable options like soybean and mustard cakes are often in short supply.
So these farmers are really caught in this difficult balancing act
Yes.
of, trying to ensure their cows are properly nourished
Yeah,
while also, managing their own economic realities.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's shift now to that third pillar,
Yeah.
animal management and healthcare.
All right.
And the research really highlights the financial burden of veterinary care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, nearly 70% of farmers
Wow.
reported that high vet costs were a major obstacle.
That's startling.
Yeah,
I mean, I can only imagine how many animals are not getting the care they need.
it's a big concern.
Yeah.
And this problem is compounded by a lack of awareness and knowledge
Oh, okay.
regarding animal diseases.
Okay.
You know, the study found that over 65% of farmers lacked knowledge about the importance of vaccinations,
Oh,
and over half
okay.
weren't fully aware of the importance of deworming their animals.
So it's like a double whammy. They can't afford the vet, and they might not even realize their animals are sick
Exactly.
or how to prevent the illnesses.
Exactly.
Right, and is maintaining proper hygiene and housing also a challenge?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Nearly half the farmers struggled with maintaining proper hygiene and housing, which, you know, significantly impacts animal health
Right.
and consequently milk production.
Right, right. Okay, so we've covered the three main pillars:
We have.
breeding, feeding, and animal management and healthcare.
Yeah.
But the research doesn't stop there.
No, it doesn't.
What are some of the other constraints that the study unearthed?
Well, financial woes kind of emerge as this recurring theme.
Yeah.
You know, limited access to credit facilities and high interest rates plagued over 67% of the farmers,
Wow.
which, you know, leaves them with few options for investing in their farms
Right.
or dealing with those unexpected expenses.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunately a common problem for small-scale farmers worldwide. It really creates this cycle of hardship
Yeah,
where they can't afford the necessary improvements to increase their profits.
exactly.
And it's not just about, access to loans.
Right.
The farmers are also dealing with low milk prices,
Yeah.
reported by over 65% of those surveyed.
Yeah.
So even when they produce milk, they might not be getting a fair price for it.
It's a tough situation.
It's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
It seems like they're trapped between these high input costs
Yeah.
and low output prices.
Exactly.
Or anything else.
One more thing.
Okay.
And it kind of circles back to our breeding discussion.
Okay.
Over 57% of farmers reported limited access to high-yielding dairy animals.
So even if they could improve their breeding practices,
Right.
they might not have access to quality animals in the first place.
Yeah, that's the tough part.
So far, this deep dive has painted, I'd say, a pretty bleak picture.
Yeah, it has.
Are there any glimmers of hope? What can be done to address these seemingly insurmountable challenges?
I think there are some. And we'll explore some of those potential solutions when we return.
Okay.
For part 2 of this deep dive.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of dairy farming in Mandsaur, India.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, so in the first part,
Yeah.
we uncovered this web of constraints holding back these dairy farmers.
Right.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right?
No, not at all.
the study does offer some potential solutions.
It does,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think one of the most promising solutions really focuses on just the power of knowledge.
Okay.
The study highlights this need for awareness camps and training programs designed for these farmers.
So basically equipping them with best practices for, breeding, feeding,
Exactly.
animal care.
Yeah, all of that.
I mean, could something that straightforward really make a difference?
It may sound simple,
Yeah.
but knowledge is a powerful tool.
Yeah.
Providing farmers with the right information really empowers them to make better decisions about breeding, adopt optimal feeding strategies,
Right.
and even recognize early warning signs of illness in their animals.
So it's about giving them the tools
Yeah,
to take control of their operations and overcome some of those limitations that we discussed.
exactly. Yeah.
But knowledge alone can't solve everything, right? I
Right.
mean, we learned these farmers are facing financial constraints,
Yeah.
lack of access to resources,
Yeah.
unreliable veterinary services. I mean, how do we address those more systemic problems?
That's where the second major solution comes in government and agency support.
Okay.
The study emphasizes the role
Yeah.
that government agencies and dairy development organizations
Right.
can play in providing assistance.
So we're talking about things like financial aid,
Yes.
subsidies for feed or veterinary services,
Absolutely.
access to better breeding stock.
Exactly.
Ah.
Targeted support
Yeah.
from these institutions could alleviate some of the financial burdens on the farmers. Yeah.
And allow them to actually invest in better practices and technologies.
That makes sense. But I've heard that government programs
Nah.
can sometimes be slow or bureaucratic.
Yeah.
How can they ensure that that support actually reaches the farmers who need it most?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
The study suggests a collaborative approach
Okay.
where government agencies, research institutions, and even private sector players
Okay.
all work together
Oh, wow.
to streamline the delivery of these services.
Okay.
So imagine it as a network of support,
Yeah.
ensuring that the right resources
Right.
reach the right people at the right time.
That sounds much more efficient than like a top-down approach.
For sure.
It seems like the study really emphasizes empowering farmers,
Yes.
not just handing out temporary fixes.
Exactly.
So it's about equipping them with the
Yeah.
tools and knowledge to build sustainable and profitable businesses for the long term.
For the long term. And this leads us to a concept that's increasingly important in all sectors these days.
Yeah.
Sustainability.
Sustainability, yeah.
Yes, the buzzword of our time.
Right.
But what does sustainability actually mean in the context of dairy farming
Yeah,
in Mandsaur?
that's a good question.
I mean, I imagine it's about more than just using paper straws.
It is. You're right. It's
Yeah.
about ensuring that the industry can thrive
Okay.
without negatively impacting the environment
Right.
or compromising the well-being of the animals.
Right. Okay.
The study suggests promoting clean milk production techniques, efficient resource management,
Okay.
and even exploring renewable energy options for these farms.
So it's a holistic view,
It is.
considering the environmental and ethical aspects alongside the economic ones.
Exactly.
And it's not just about being eco-friendly,
Right.
right? It's about ensuring the long-term viability of the industry.
Exactly.
I mean, sustainable practices can reduce costs, improve product quality,
Absolutely.
and even open up new markets for these farmers.
It's a win-win
Sounds like a win-win
for everybody.
for the farmers, the consumers,
Yeah.
the planet.
The planet.
Yeah, but I'm wondering how these farmers who are already struggling with so many challenges
Yeah.
can realistically implement such a huge shift in their practices.
It definitely requires a change in mindset.
Yeah.
And that's where education and training come in again.
Okay.
Equipping farmers with the knowledge and skills
Right.
to implement these practices is key.
Yeah.
And this is where those government agencies and dairy development organizations
Yeah.
play a vital role by providing guidance and support.
So it sounds like everyone has a role to play.
They do.
But these all seem like long-term solutions.
Uh-huh.
What about the urgent problems?
Yeah.
What can be done to alleviate some of the immediate challenges these farmers are facing right now?
You're right.
Yeah.
There's no quick fix for a situation this complex. But the study does hint at some potential short-term strategies.
Okay, like what?
Well, for instance, improving access to credit and microfinance options
Yeah.
could help farmers with those immediate financial constraints.
So giving them some breathing room
Yes.
to invest in better feed, healthcare, technology upgrades.
Exactly.
Okay.
Another immediate step could be organizing mobile veterinary camps,
Oh, okay.
bringing essential healthcare services directly to these remote farming communities.
So rather than waiting for farmers to come to them,
Yeah,
the vets go directly to the farms.
exactly.
I like that proactive approach.
Yeah.
I'm guessing those awareness camps we discussed earlier
Uh-huh.
could also have like a more immediate impact
Absolutely.
by, getting vital information to farmers quickly.
For sure. Even short, focused training sessions
Okay.
on specific topics like heat detection or disease prevention
Right.
could be immensely beneficial in the short term.
Okay.
And we shouldn't underestimate the power of community.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the study highlights the importance of farmer-to-farmer learning and knowledge sharing.
Right.
Encouraging farmers to form groups or cooperatives can create a platform for exchanging ideas, best practices, and even resources.
So like a support network.
Yeah.
Where they can learn from each other's experiences.
Exactly.
And help each other navigate these challenges.
Exactly.
Oh.
It's about leveraging the collective wisdom and resilience
Yeah.
of these communities
Okay.
and emphasizing that they're not alone in this journey.
So we've covered a wide range of solutions,
We have.
from long-term strategies like education and sustainable practices,
Right.
to more immediate interventions like those mobile vet clinics.
Exactly.
It seems like a multi-pronged approach is needed to address this complex situation
You really does.
facing dairy farmers in Mandsaur.
Yeah.
We've talked about the problems,
Uh-huh.
the solutions, but what does it all mean for the future
Right.
of India's dairy industry?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What are the implications of these findings on a larger scale?
Exactly. And that's what we'll discuss in
Okay.
part 3 of this deep dive.
All right, welcome back to the final part
Thanks.
of our deep dive into dairy farming in India.
Yeah.
We've explored the specific challenges in Mandsaur, talked about some potential solutions,
Yeah.
but now it's time to zoom out
Right.
and look at, the wider implications
Yes.
for India's dairy industry as a whole.
It's interesting because,
Yeah.
while the Mandsaur study really just focuses on this one region,
Yeah.
the constraints faced by these farmers actually mirror these larger trends that we're seeing across India's dairy sector.
So Mandsaur acts as like a microcosm, kind of,
Exactly.
shedding light on the broader issues.
Yeah.
So what are some of these trends that, our listeners should be aware of?
One of the most significant trends is this shift
Okay.
from smallholder dairy farming
Okay.
to larger, more industrialized operations.
So it's similar to what's happened in other areas of agriculture, like the rise of mega farms.
It is. Yeah.
We see that happening in so many industries.
Right. Exactly.
But is this shift towards larger dairy farms a good thing or a bad thing for India?
It's a complex issue
Yeah.
with no easy answer.
Yeah.
Larger farms can often leverage economies of scale.
Okay.
They can produce milk more efficiently,
Right.
invest in new technologies,
Okay.
and have an easier time, accessing markets.
So from a purely economic standpoint,
Yeah.
bigger might be better.
Yeah, potentially.
But what about the impact on those smallholder farmers?
Right.
The people that, really are at the heart of this deep dive.
Exactly. And that's the downside. This shift towards larger operations could marginalize small farms because they just don't have the resources to compete.
Right.
And this raises concerns about, equity and sustainability within the industry.
So how do you balance, promoting growth and efficiency
Right.
while also protecting the livelihoods of those who depend on these smaller farms?
It's a tough question.
It's a tough question.
And it's not just about economics.
Right.
It's about preserving the social and cultural fabric
Right.
of rural India, where, dairy farming is so deeply intertwined with people's lives.
Right. It's about so much more than just milk production.
It is.
It's about communities,
Yeah.
traditions, a way of life.
For sure.
Speaking of milk,
Yeah.
I imagine with India's growing population and, rising incomes,
Right.
there's a huge increase in demand for dairy products.
Absolutely. As incomes rise
Yeah.
and diets change,
Yeah.
more and more Indians are consuming milk and dairy.
Right.
And this presents a massive opportunity for the industry.
Yeah.
But it also comes with challenges.
Like ensuring that production can keep pace with demand.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing this is where those larger, more efficient farms come in.
They'll play a role.
Yeah.
But it also comes back to those fundamental constraints we discussed.
Yeah.
If farmers are struggling with breeding, feeding, and animal health, they won't be able to significantly increase milk production.
Right. Even with larger farms.
Exactly.
It sounds like a bottleneck situation.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
the demand is there, but the supply chain is struggling to catch up.
That's a great way to put it. And
Yeah.
that's why those solutions we discussed
Yeah.
become even more crucial.
Right.
Investing in knowledge,
Yeah.
supporting farmers with resources and technology,
Mm-hmm.
promoting sustainable practices.
Yeah.
These aren't just good ideas, they're absolutely necessary for the future of this industry.
It sounds like a call to action for everyone involved.
It is.
From policymakers to researchers to consumers,
Yeah,
we all have a role to play
we do.
in ensuring the industry's long-term success.
Absolutely. And it's not just about quantity.
Yeah.
It's also about quality.
Right.
Consumers are becoming more discerning.
They're demanding higher quality,
Yeah.
safer,
Mm.
and more ethically produced dairy products.
So it's not just about producing more milk.
Right. Yeah.
It's about producing better milk
Exactly.
that meets those evolving expectations.
Exactly. And this ties in with that concept of sustainability
Yeah.
we talked about.
Yeah.
Sustainable practices can lead to higher quality milk,
Right.
improve animal welfare,
Mhm.
and reduce the environmental impact of dairy farming.
So it's about finding a balance,
It is.
creating a system where, the farmers,
Yeah.
the consumers,
Uh-huh.
and the environment all benefit.
It's a true win-win-win
A
situation.
true win-win-win. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, this brings us back to you, our listener.
Yeah.
We've explored, the complexities of this industry
Yeah.
from the micro level
Yeah.
of individual farms in Mandsaur
Uh-huh.
to the macro level of national trends.
Actually.
We've unpacked the challenges,
Yeah.
explored some potential solutions.
But now it's time for you to think critically about what it all means for you.
Yeah, how does this knowledge change your perspective?
That is, it affects your choices
Yeah,
as a consumer.
as a consumer, exactly.
Knowing what you now know, what role do you see yourself playing in shaping the future of this vital industry?
Yeah.
That's something we hope you'll continue to think about long after this deep dive is over.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us, and keep those minds churning.
Thanks for having me.
I got milk.